Welcome back to our special election night coverage. In San Francisco, voters are strongly backing two public safety measures that really hone in on law enforcement in particular. So let's start with Prop E. Prop E would give police more powers, including access to more surveillance cameras, facial recognition technology. It would lift restrictions on police chases in the city. And right now, with a good amount of the vote in, 61% of voters are in support of this, sending a strong message that they want police to have more tools to fight crime. Then we have Prop B, which called for an increase in police staffing. It's a so-called cop tax. This one squarely being rejected by voters tonight, a huge margin here. 66% of voters say they want nothing to do with this. And there is an interesting backstory to this one. So we want to get you more information on these measures. Lauren Toms has been following this proposition and what it means for the city of San Francisco. Kelsi also following the other proposition here that comes to law enforcement. Lauren, I want to start with you. What does this mean here? What are voters saying that they want with this vote in favor of Prop E?
Yeah, I think quite blatantly voters in San Francisco are saying that they're fed up with crime. They want some kind of solution, and this was the solution that Mayor London Breed came up with. It's backed not only by Mayor London Breed, but also mayoral candidates Daniel Lurie and Mark Farrell. And again, it's just showing this huge public safety divide that we're seeing in San Francisco. Prop E, again, focuses on expanding police powers, allowing police to obtain more advanced technologies that supporters say would put them on par with other departments across the country. It would also expand their authority to conduct car chases, police pursuits in the city. And I'm getting a little bit of reaction from both supporters and opponents of this proposition. Earlier, I spoke with a former police commissioner who was very staunchly against Proposition E. Take a listen to what she had to say.
It's not going to yield a decrease in crime. It's not going to yield an increase in community safety. Instead, it's really a mismatch of old and bad policies that this city rejected decades ago.
Now, mayoral candidate Daniel Lurie saying in a statement, quote, "The voters spoke clearly in passing Prop E to use safety cameras and other common sense technology to hold repeat offenders accountable, tactics that should have been employed years ago." And Mayor London Breed, sponsor of Prop E, said, quote, "By supporting the work of police, expanding our use of technology and getting officers out from behind their desks and onto our streets, we will make San Francisco a safer city." So, Sarah, a clear divide in this case. Now, the one thing that I should mention is that the funding in this case has been really, really interesting. Like I said, it's backed by Mayor London Breed, but Daniel Lurie has been a huge funder of this, showing voters that he is going to be really strong on public safety, also backed by pretty significant tech executives. Funding in support of Prop E has garnered more than $1 million. Now, opponents of Prop E say that over-policing and surveillance tactics work against citizens, particularly citizens of color here in San Francisco. So a lot of disappointment from the No on Prop E campaign tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this ties into the mayoral race and what ideologies this suggests people are looking for in the leader of San Francisco. I also want to talk to you, Kelsi, about Prop B, which we both agree is a little bit complicated in terms of how it's funded. Voters are not happy with this one. They are squarely rejecting this so far. The early numbers show it is being strongly defeated tonight. What are voters saying with that sort of message here?
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about how the mayor supported Prop E. Well, the mayor was against Prop B. So it does seem like voters are kind of siding with the mayor in a lot of these propositions here in San Francisco. Prop B, like you said, very complicated. The way that Prop B was worded, it looked to increase police staffing over the next 5 years, but if and only if voters voted on some sort of future tax or amended some sort of current funding. So opponents of this dubbed it a cop tax, saying that essentially what it is doing or what it would have done would force people to pay more in taxes to fund for a fully policed police department. So the voters, what they're doing or what they're saying here with these numbers, voting no on this by almost double the amount, is that it's not that they don't want a fully staffed police department. They actually do want a fully staffed police department. They want it faster, and they want it using the current money that we already have in the general fund here in the city and not create another tax to fund that. So,
and then there are the more progressive voters who think that adding to the police department is not the answer. Most people, like you said, probably are taking issue with the funding element of this, but there are voters out there who think that adding to the police department is not the answer in terms of achieving public safety. There's such a big debate in the city about how we get to public safety and it being a multifaceted issue, but it definitely seems like people had a lot to say about both of these issues, and you know, it shows that people were perhaps reading a little bit more closely in between the lines and not just at the surface level that says, okay, more police. It does seem like that could have been a big issue for voters who are looking more closely into this.
Yeah, and, you know, I think we can't forget the whole defund the police thing, like you were talking about, people that really don't want more police on the street. That wasn't that long ago. That was only a few years ago that those measures passed. So now we're seeing really the opposite effect. We're seeing people going back and wanting to fund the police. They're seeing all of the issues with crime around the city. A lot of the opponents of Prop B are these kind of neighborhood safety groups that have popped up over the last couple of years that are really pushing for not only more funding for police, more staffing for police, more technology for police, like we've seen in some of the other measures here tonight. So there clearly is this push by what we've been kind of calling moderate Democrats all night to make public safety really kind of the #1 issue on the ballot here in San Francisco, and they've made their opinions known.
Yeah, the pendulum has swung the other way. Hard to imagine something like Prop E passing just 4 years ago.